There's a secret about silence that Eckhart Tolle never explicitly stated, and when you discover what it is, everything will fall into place. You know silence heals. You've read about it, heard lectures, maybe even tried mindfulness practices a few times, but something odd is happening. Something nobody talks about. The more you need inner stillness, the more you run from it. It's as if your ego mind knows exactly what you need and does everything to prevent you from having it. Why, today you'll understand the hidden mechanism behind this escape, and more importantly, how to stop running from the very thing that can bring you wholeness. But first, let me tell you something I discovered during my darkest hour. It was 3 in the morning. I was sitting in the kitchen, total silence in the house. And you know what I did? I grabbed my phone. I started scrolling through my feed. Anything to avoid being alone with my thoughts. I knew those 5 minutes of quiet could calm me, but I chose noise. I chose distraction. And you've probably done this too. There's something about silence that terrifies us, something Tolle understood deeply but never directly explained. Silence is a clean mirror, and most of us don't want to see what it reflects. When you stop running, when you really become quiet, what happens? Your thoughts get louder. Your emotions become more intense. It's like the internal volume increases, but here's what most people don't understand. This increase in volume isn't silence being hostile to you. It's silence being honest with you. All day long, you create a layer of constant noise. Music, conversations, television, notifications. This layer acts as emotional numbing. It muffles what's really happening inside you. When you remove this numbing, of course you'll feel more intensely. It's like having a wound and taking painkillers all day. When the effect wears off, the pain becomes more evident. But the pain didn't appear because of the lack of medicine. It was always there. And that's where the secret lies. Tolle talked about presence, about the power of the present moment. But there's a deeper layer, a layer he experienced, that he knew, but that he rarely put into direct words. Silence isn't the absence of sound. Silence is total presence with what's happening inside you. And that can be devastating at first, because when you stop running, you come face to face with everything you've been avoiding. Imagine a calm ocean. When the water is agitated, you can't see the bottom. But when it becomes still, every detail of the seabed becomes visible. Silence does this to your mind. It reveals everything that was hidden beneath the constant agitation. And that's why we run. We don't run from silence itself. We run from what it shows us. We run from clarity. We run from the naked truth about our inner state. But here's what Tolle discovered, and what changed everything for him. The only way to get through it is by going through it. There's no shortcut. There's no way to have the benefits of silence without going through the initial discomfort. It's like plunging into cold water. The first few seconds are shocking. Your body wants to run. But if you breathe, something magical happens. You adapt. And that same water that seemed unbearable becomes invigorating. Silence works the same way. In the first moments, your mind will do everything to get you out of there. It will bombard you with urgent thoughts, with worries that seem like they can't wait. But that's just surface noise trying to maintain control, because there's something your ego mind doesn't want you to discover. Something it fears more than anything, that you don't need it to be happy. And when you stay silent long enough, you begin to notice there's a space between thoughts, a space where you exist without needing to think about existing. Tolle called it pure being. I call it home. It's where you go when you stop running. It's the place that's always been there, waiting for you to stop running in circles. But we've reached the most important point. How to stop running. Because it's one thing to understand the mechanism, it's another to actually change the pattern. And here's where most people make a mistake. They try to force silence. They try to fight against thoughts. They try to create an artificial state of serenity. But that's like trying to calm water by stirring it forcefully. The secret that Tolle lived, but rarely taught directly, is about mindful acceptance. It's not about forcing your mind to be quiet. It's about changing your relationship with the inner noise. And here's the crucial difference that can change everything for you. Most people try to meditate as if it were a battle. They sit down and declare war on their thoughts. I'm not going to think about anything. I'm going to empty my mind. I'm going to reach a state of total peace. But that's like trying to calm a crying baby by yelling at it. Mindful acceptance works differently. It's like being a scientific observer of your own inner experience. When an anxious thought appears, instead of running away from it or fighting against it, you simply notice, an anxious thought is here. Not, oh no, that awful thought again. Not, I need to stop thinking about this immediately. Simply, interesting. The mind is creating anxiety now. When an uncomfortable emotion arises, instead of seeking distraction, you allow it to be present. Sadness is here now, as if you were a scientist studying the internal emotional climate, curiously not judging whether it's good or bad, just observing what's happening. This isn't passivity. It's the most active form of presence there is, because it requires a fundamental shift in perspective. You stop identifying with the content of your mind and begin to recognize yourself as the space where that content appears. And here's what happens when you stop fighting your inner world. It stops fighting you. It's as if you made peace with an enemy who, in truth, was never really your enemy. Your thoughts continue to appear, but they lose their urgency. Your emotions continue to arise, but they lose the power to control you. And in that space, in that mindful acceptance, true silence is born. It's not the silence of absence. It's the silence of total presence. It's not the stillness of an empty mind. It's the stillness of a mind that is no longer at war with itself. And when you reach that place, you understand why Tolle spoke about the transformative power of the present moment. Because the present moment isn't a moment in time. It's a state of being. It's the place where you exist when you stop running from yourself. But there's something even deeper, something I discovered after years of practicing this mindful acceptance. Silence isn't just healing, it's revelatory. When you truly become present with what's happening inside you, without escaping, without resisting, you begin to notice patterns. You realize that anxiety that seemed to come from nowhere actually has a specific trigger. You realize that overwhelming sadness actually has a message for you. You realize that destructive anger is actually protecting something vulnerable inside you. Silence becomes like an emotional magnifying glass. It doesn't just heal, it helps you understand, and when you understand it, you gain choice. Instead of being a hostage to your emotional patterns, you begin to dance with them. But we've arrived at the crucial point, the point where theory meets practice. How do you do this in the real world? How do you apply this mindful acceptance when your life is chaotic? How do you find this healing silence when 1,000 urgent things are happening around you? And this is where Eckhart Tolle was brilliant, but also where he was incomplete. He talked about being present in the midst of chaos, but he didn't exactly teach how to do that when your ego mind is screaming that you need to do 1,000 things at the same time. So I had to discover it in practice, and what I discovered will change how you see silence forever. Silence isn't a place you go. It's a state you carry. Imagine you're like a submarine. No matter how turbulent the ocean's surface is, down below, in the depths, there's absolute calm. The noise of the world is the surface, but you can learn to dive into your depths, even in the midst of a storm. How? First technique, the invisible breathing anchor. Most people try to meditate by sitting in silence, but you can use your breath as a portal to silence, anywhere. You don't need to change your breathing rhythm. You don't need to count breaths. You just need to notice that you're breathing. But here's the detail that makes all the difference. You're not trying to use your breath to relax. You're using your breath as an anchor to the present moment. It's subtle, but revolutionary. A mindful inhalation in traffic. As you feel the air entering your nostrils, a present exhalation in the bank line, feeling the air leaving your lips. A moment of attention to your breath in the middle of an argument. Every time you do this, you're diving. You're accessing that inner submarine. And the most interesting thing, nobody around you notices you're doing it. It's completely invisible, but the effect is immediate. You don't leave the world. You become more present in the world. And here's the secret that changed everything for me. You don't need a lot of time, you need consistency. 3 seconds of real presence are worth more than 30 minutes of forced contemplation, because it's not about duration, it's about the quality of attention. 3 truly conscious breaths during the day are better than an hour of meditation where you're fighting your ego mind. Second technique, the silence between activities. There's a magical space between finishing one thing and starting the next. Most people rush through this space. It's as if our lives are a song played without pauses between the notes. The result is constant noise, not melody. But if you stop there, for 2 or 3 seconds, you find a small eternity. I'll give you very specific examples. Finished reading an email? Pause for 2 seconds before opening the next one. Feel your hands on the keyboard. Notice the screen in front of you. Hung up the phone. Breathe 3 times before moving on to the next task. Feel the silence that remains after the other person's voice disappears. Got out of the car? Walk 3 steps in silence before pulling out your phone. Feel your feet touching the ground. Closed a door? Listen to the sound of it closing completely before thinking about the next thing. These micro moments of silence are like vitamins for your soul. Small doses, powerful cumulative effect. And here's what happens when you do this consistently for a few days. You begin to realize that life has natural spaces of silence. You just never paid attention to them. It's like discovering that your house always had windows. You just never looked through them. Third technique, emergent sensory presence. When your mind is in total panic, when you feel like you're going to explode with anxiety, when it seems impossible to find any peace, stop and find 5 things you can see right now, then 4 things you can touch and 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This isn't a relaxation technique. It's a direct portal to the present. And in the present, silence is always available. But here's where it gets really interesting. As you practice these techniques, something unexpected happens. You realize you never needed to escape silence in the first place. You realize you were escaping a distorted version of silence, a version your ego mind created to keep you busy. True silence was never threatening. True silence is like returning home after a long and tiring journey. It's familiar. It's welcoming. It's where you always belonged. And when you realize this, when you truly understand this, your relationship with your entire life changes because you're no longer running from yourself. You're no longer escaping the present moment. You are living from silence, not going towards it. And there's a huge difference between these 2 things. When you live from silence, decisions become clearer. When you act from this silent center, you don't get lost in emotional dramas. When you speak from this inner quietude, your words carry a different weight. People feel it, even if they can't explain what it is. It's as if you emanate a quality that calms the environments where you arrive. And here's something almost nobody tells you about silence. It's contagious. When you truly embody this inner quietude, you begin to activate silence in other people, without talking about it, without teaching techniques. Simply by being present in this way, it's as if you're an emotional tuning fork, playing at the frequency of peace, and the people around you begin to vibrate at that same frequency. Eckhart Tolle knew this. That's why simply being in his presence was transformative for so many people. Eckhart Tolle, you see, had stopped running from the quietude so long ago. He became walking stillness, and you can get there too. Not through years of intensive contemplation, not through expensive spiritual retreats, through daily microdoses of real presence, through stopping the escape from yourself, step by step, breath by breath. But there's something even deeper I want to show you. Quietude isn't just healing, it's not just revealing, it's creative. When you stop running from the present moment, when you truly settle into the quiet, you access a different intelligence. It's not the intelligence that plans and analyzes, it's the intelligence that knows, that intuits, that creates from emptiness. And here's something fascinating I've discovered in practice. The best ideas never come when you're forcing your mind to think. They come when you stop forcing. It's as if there are 2 minds working within you. The surface mind, which makes lists and solves obvious problems, and the deep mind, which connects dots the other didn't even know existed. The surface mind works through effort. The deep mind works through silence. Think about how many times you've had your best idea in the shower, or walking alone, or in that moment, between waking up and getting out of bed. It was never when you were sitting there forcing your mind to be creative. It was always when you relaxed conscious control and let something deeper emerge. That's where the best ideas come from. The solutions you would never have thought of. The insights that change everything. Because when your mind stops making noise, a deeper wisdom can emerge. And that wisdom was always there, waiting for you to stop shouting over it. Einstein spoke of this when describing his discoveries. Great artists knew this when they talked about inspiration. The inventors who changed the world accessed this when they described their eureka moments. They knew how to dive into creative quietude, how to fish for ideas in the ocean of pure consciousness. And the most incredible thing, the more you practice accessing this silence, the more this creative intelligence becomes available to you. And now you know too. But let me tell you one last thing. The most important thing of all, the quietude that heals, is no different from the quietude you've always carried within you. You don't need to create peace. You need to stop destroying the peace that already exists. You don't need to find silence. You need to stop running from the silence that is your essential nature. And here's the perspective shift that can revolutionize your entire life. You've spent years thinking you were a person who needed to find peace. But what if it were the other way around? What if you were the peace, temporarily identified with the person? It's as if you are an ocean, pretending to be only the waves on the surface. The waves are real, thoughts are real, emotions are real, everyday problems are real, but you are the entire ocean. You are the silent depth that sustains all the waves. And when you remember this, when you truly understand this, your relationship with problems changes completely. You no longer need to solve all your problems to be happy. You no longer need to control all your emotions to have peace, because you realize that the problems are the waves, but you are the ocean. The waves may be turbulent on the surface, but that doesn't affect the calmness of the depths. And you've always had access to those depths. You just forgot how to dive. When you remember this and when you truly understand this, everything changes. You stop identifying only with the surface agitation. You begin to live from your oceanic nature. Calm, deep, inexhaustible. It's a subtle shift, but it's the difference between drowning in the waves and surfing them from a deep stability. And that was the secret Eckhart Tolle never explicitly stated. Because some truths can only be lived. You are not someone who needs to find the quietude. You are the quietude, temporarily forgotten of yourself. And now, you remembered. The question is no longer how to find peace. The question is, how will you choose to live from this remembrance? How will you stop running from what you always were?